Recorded Books presents 12 Miles Below, Book 3, Grand Design, a progression fantasy novel by Mark Arrows, narrated by Scott Aiello. Prologue.
There was a plan, and you ruined it,
Toakar said to the beaten man before him. The slaver knight lay on the ground, arms twisted in horrifying angles, legs shattered. It had been all too easy for the feather to crush the delicate flesh, relic armor and all. Like cracking into a crab, squeeze hard enough and the hard outer shell cracks all at once, ripping apart the soft tissue under. Even with only one hand, an insect was still an insect to him. The human should have known better, reporting failure. What a delightful lack of self-preservation. Perhaps the man might have lived had he crawled into the wastes and pretended he'd died in the assault like the rest of the insects. Toakar wouldn't have cared enough to come looking.
"Well, what have you got to say for yourself, Captain?"
the feather asked, lightly tapping the man's back with a foot. Blood spilled from a cough. The man's voice came out as a deep moan, as if his voice came from the throat rather than his mouth. Considering he'd shattered the man's mouth a moment ago, it surprised Toakar how recognizable the words were.
Please, thought faster.
Faster? Then where is he? You said you'd get him here faster. The only insect I see at my feet is you. Where is the winter scar I ordered?
The man whimpered, and Toakar pressed his leg further down, the broken relic armor starting to buckle under the pressure, metal groaning. He imagined if he pressed hard enough, blood would be squeezed out of the man's mouth like paste. That wasn't how it worked, of course. If the amount of force he exerted in his foot was enough to crush the relic armor, it would most certainly crush in a straight line through everything else.
The little winter scar prances about as bait, and you mental invalids all fall for it, tripping over your little feet in haste. A perfectly good plan, thrown out the window because you and your men thought you could do things a little faster. I didn't order fast. I ordered results. He kicked the man with casual contempt. It was enough to send the man flying, crashing hard into the might-made rock, likely breaking a few more bones in the process. Not that Toakar cared to check. The feather walked over to him in no real hurry, bare feet stepping over pools of blood, leaving an imprint behind each step. Looming over the man now, he reached down. The floating slats of metal that compromised his left hand wrapped around the soft neck, drawing against the flesh like a snapping magnet, and then the metal hand lifted. The human moaned in pain until his throat was far too constricted to say a word. The body was dragged up slowly, feet left the ground and dangled in the air. I wonder what part of your body will give out first. Will you suffocate to death? Will the weight of the armor rip your spine apart? Perhaps a bit of both? He squeezed the fleshy throat further, careful not to exert too much pressure. He didn't want to cut off the blood flow. That would end things too quickly. I suppose we'll have to see. The man's broken limbs twitched, but none lifted to fight back. The armor's internal musculature had been ripped apart. It couldn't save him. For all the power, this armor was now nothing more than several 100 pounds of dead weight pulling down against the man's spine. Eyes bulged. The broken man's face turned bright red, then a shade of purple. Toakar could hear the little heart beating inside the man fast, like a rabbit. He could almost taste the fear and pain. Delightful. The twitching continued even after the heartbeat had stopped, a full 4 minutes later. It seems the human spine is more structurally sound than I had thought, the feather said, letting go of the dead body. It flopped down on the ground, a mix of heavy metal and bloody sounds. I'm impressed by your backbone, Captain. You are dismissed. Toakar turned and walked to his throne, where he sat, as if tired from the minor ordeal. He flexed his left hand, opening and closing it slowly, watching the dead man's blood drip away from the metal fingertips drop by drop, watching all the circuits correctly move without fault, and the floating plates lazily moved in their predictable paths. His right hand remained limp, despite the physical shell being perfectly intact. Anytime he tried to send internal digital probes to scan the arm, it felt
Sample complete. Ready to continue?